Hi and welcome to this Ignite webcast. My name is Josh Topal and I work on the Office 365 team. And if this is your first time, Ignite events are a series of technical workshops for IT professionals and Microsoft partners. And the Ignite webcast will address different technical subjects and scenarios that are really beneficial to anyone who wants to increase their knowledge of the Office 365 suite. So today we're really excited to have Jeff Medford lead our call. Jeff is a senior technical product manager on the Office 365 team, and in today's webcast, he'll dive into Office 365 deployment with FastTrack. So again, today's session provides a real great opportunity to hear directly from a Microsoft employee, and you can learn more about Office 365 from someone who worked so closely on it. So today's webcast will be about an hour, and we'll leave a few minutes at the end to field any questions from anyone on the call. And you can type your questions into the Lync chat box. I do ask that you hold those questions till the end so that we can get to all of them. And we are recording today's session, so you can find the recording and the PowerPoint that you'll see here at this link that I just posted on our Ignite site. Should have that up later in the day. And one last thing is that since we are recording today's session, please understand that you may be captured in the recording. So if you don't wish to be recorded, please don't type anything into the IM window, or feel free to leave the meeting and you can view it at a later time. So that's it for me. So Jeff, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, I'm Jeff Medford, and I work on the Office 365 team. And the team I am on is the technical marketing team, and the focus that I have is really on a deployment perspective. And my team is across deployment, adoption, readiness. So things like Ignite and the Ignite events and all of the content on Ignite that comes from the team I am on. And we really appreciate you joining these sessions and being involved with Ignite. It is really direct from our worldwide product team out to customers and partners. So I'm excited to talk about FastTrack today, and to plate it up, I mean, it really is Office 365 deployment. And what does deployment mean in kind of the services world? And FastTrack is a component of how you would deploy Office 365, all the different workloads, et cetera. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we have come from a services organization delivering the cloud to customers for the last 8 years or so, where we've come across that journey from a Microsoft perspective, and then really dive into FastTrack and what FastTrack means from a partner perspective, from a customer perspective, because I realize we have a very broad audience on these Ignite calls. I'm going to every now and then kind of focus it in on how partners can deliver or how customers can do this on their own. So we will get started. And I wanted to start with traditional deployment methodologies. And when we at Microsoft, large and small, look at customers across the last 8 years, 5 years, 4 years, when Office 365 really has come onto the scene for all of our customers, we've seen in some of our large implementations that infrastructure, legacy infrastructure or traditional deployment methodologies really are utilized by our teams and by our partners and by our customers from a frame of mind. And that instead of utilizing a service that was built from the ground up to be running and on and consumable, we thought about deployment in ways that were kind of legacy approaches, where we looked at traditional deployment of planning and remediation and remediation on top of the planning and moving through a scenario which is very diligent, but also very kind of focused on that infrastructure side. And what we want to do is really show our customers and show our partners how easy Office 365 can be from a pilot, deploy, and then enhance scenario. And what we want is, and what we have experienced over the last 12 months or so with customers utilizing this new FastTrack methodology, is that the cloud is there ready. We've built it, it's running, and it's time to consume. And whether you're consuming Exchange or SharePoint, SkyDrive Pro or Office ProPlus for 365, it's ready and available for you, and getting some users on board to a pilot phase is really critical in the actual process of planning a deployment. So we will move into what FastTrack is and why it's such an important step from a Microsoft and our customer perspective. We don't ever want to throw away work. And we had seen in the past with proof of concepts and standing up sandbox trials and trying things out that customers maybe went down a path to try something in a lab or try something in a small section, said, yeah, absolutely, this works for us, this is what we need, and then threw that away to then start fresh on a production environment. And what we want is, and what we have seen over the past year or so with this methodology is that customers have the ability to start small, start with a pilot, start consuming the service, and then move directly from that pilot into a production mode when we think of deployment. And from a delivery model, being able to build the building blocks so that as you move up the stack, as you move into deployment, that there is no throwaway work. There's no mailboxes that don't go on and move forward, and that you can purchase directly from what you've been trying. And one of the other benefits from a FastTrack perspective is that you have the full Office 365 user experience. So if you are working through SharePoint or working through Lync or working through Exchange, all of those are absolutely great one by one. But what we also want to have you imagine is that all of these services are available, connected to each other through an E3 plan, which enables all of the enterprise services from Microsoft's Office 365. So without having to build a bunch of on-premises equipment and infrastructure, you can actually start utilizing all of these integration points in the cloud very, very quickly and easily. And speaking of quick and easy, the drive from a FastTrack perspective is that the time to value is short, and your effort and investment is low compared to the results that you see working through a very straightforward methodology for deployment. And one of the things that we really wanted to highlight is that identity options, and we have done a ton of work around identity over the last year or so, specifically around password synchronization and Active Directory work that allows our customers to start with cloud IDs, build into synchronized IDs using directory sync if you have Active Directory, and then at the point in which it makes sense for the business, looking at federated IDs with ADFS, and not having to go full board ADFS just to get a environment up and running, but really giving you options from a customer perspective that allows you to start using the service quickly, synchronize when you're ready, and then move into federation if it's something that's a necessary business need. And it's not just a marketing pitch around these. This is step-by-step documentation. These are tools and resources that Microsoft has invested in from an onboarding perspective. And so it's a very real scenario to go from Cloud ID to a synchronized ID. And a lot of our customers who have looked at federation in the past are actually extremely happy with password synchronization and what that offers from a business perspective. So when we look at the FastTrack methodology, it really comes down to 3 steps. You have a pilot step, deploy step, and an enhance step. And when we think about what our customers can gain during a pilot, it's really experiencing the value of Office 365 as early as possible. And you can bring new cloud experiences to your users that you don't have to integrate with on-premises architecture to deliver. So whether it's team sites, sharing, SkyDrive Pro, or even from an email perspective with a connected account, a new cloud mailbox that's working and functioning with your on-premise environment to give your customers a look and feel and really a usable environment during pilot that doesn't have to break their current situation, that doesn't have to break mail flow, that really starts to show what Office 365 can deliver as a cloud without having to build out a huge infrastructure on your premises. So then from a pilot experience, which we really, a pilot can be set up very quickly in a matter of hours. You can start utilizing Office 365 in the first couple of hours from when you click sign in and when you sign up for one of these trial or pilots. So it really is being able to experience that value early. And then as you move from a pilot where you might have some business users who have specific cases that they want to work through, some scenarios that you want to drive around the different products, once you're building out that pilot and you start to move to your deployment, deployment and all the steps involved in the deploy really tries to get you on board the service from what we call a core onboarding, which includes mail and with shared namespace, and we'll get into all the details as this is an Ignite session. But it really tries to give you the real world benefits, broad production use, still without having to jump through a lot of the infrastructure hoops that you may have thought of in the past when looking at a cloud solution. And then the enhanced phase is really, when we say full feature value, it's not a feature by feature that we turn on or don't turn on. These are like hybrid scenarios with SharePoint, with Exchange, with Lync. These are scenarios where you might implement ADFS with two-factor auth, or you might go further down the stack as far as utilizing the archiving capabilities and e-discovery. So it is starting with that core onboarding experience in step 2, moving to an enhanced scenario, which really is optional for our customers and built so that you can utilize the service in the ways that make sense for you. When I dig down into what actually is part of each step, you can consider this from Microsoft a scope of work of what we expect you to be able to do and how you do it when you're in each of these phases. And that's the easiest way that I can explain it is we've scoped these phases so that our customers, our partners, and our field and everybody understands what a pilot means, what the expectations are, and how that moves into a deployment, and then what a deployment means for our customers and for core onboarding. So when you look at a lot of things that I've already said, but in the how and the what, a pilot is the full service, and you can utilize the full service and all of its capabilities. How? You use a service domain, which is .onmicrosoft.com. So when you sign up for a pilot or a trial, you automatically get a fully functioning domain, and you can start utilizing that as your login very quickly. Cloud identities are part of the pilot, pilots from the cloud side, which means you don't have to integrate with your AD, you don't have to clean up your AD. You have very easy ways to move users from an ID perspective into the cloud, and they have a secure ID, gets them into their cloud features quickly and easily. Web clients are available across all the services, whether it's Office, whether it's Office web apps, whether it's Outlook web apps. You have a tremendous amount of capabilities through the browser immediately from a service perspective, but you also have a self-service Office client. And if you're on Windows 7, you have the ability to then side-by-side install directly from the portal the new Office 365 ProPlus. So during the pilot, not only do you have your identity built in the cloud, but you also have the ability to utilize all the services. And Office is absolutely part of the experience. The new Office allows you to have all the connected points to SharePoint, to SkyDrive Pro, all of the features that we've been delivering on top of each other all the way through, and it's a big part of a pilot experience. And then you have self-service, and that is really focused in on all of your users can quickly go to their login within Office 365 and simply run the click-to-run application to install Office. That you don't have to do an IT-led or a partner-led type of engagement when you're working through a pilot. Now, the way we then scope that pilot, and we're going to get into it a little more detail, is that you're now able to run and visualize and try and work through use cases within Office 365 without having to have a disruption with your own service. And we talk about connected accounts because it is the possibility to have an Outlook web access email inbox in the cloud, a nice shiny new inbox, and then connect it very quickly and easily for POP or IMAP back down to your Exchange server or an IMAP or POP solution so that you can actually receive and send mail from your domain without having to do the shared namespace work. So that is all part of that pilot scenario. When we move into deploy, This is Office 365 deployment at its core nature. It's IT, partner-led migration, company-wide cloud use. When you think of the technical side of shared namespace, simple coexistence with older technologies, external sites available within SharePoint, and really when you think about the how, it's the custom domain, it's directory sync, password sync, being able to utilize admin migrations, so staged migration. And this is where mailboxes get moved to the cloud, you're utilizing in production, and you have shared namespaces. And really, from a function perspective, those cloud users are now completely utilizing the service with Office 365. And as we move into enhance, obviously, this is the possibility to add what I talked about with federation, with identity management, app stores, third-party migration tools, etc. But we see this as a continuation step from core onboarding. We've delivered tools and we've delivered a ton of scenarios from a deployment perspective that you may not need all of the third level enhanced scenarios. With an Office side by side, isn't Outlook the exception? You can run Outlook. You won't run them at the same time, but you can definitely run full version Office with Outlook side by side if you're Windows 7 and above. And I know there is an Ignite session, an entire Ignite documentation on ignite.office.com that speaks exactly to Office 365 ProPlus deployment, that they don't run at the same time, but they can be absolutely installed at the same time. So, will Ignite Webcast do more on the enhanced block for extending the basics? Absolutely. So this is part one of a two-part series, and then the next part will go deeper into the deployment actual characteristics and into the enhanced scenarios. This one is we're going to go through all of these pieces kind of as deep as we can get in an hour session, but we have another session next week. So what does the pilot experience look like? And I talked about the scope of work. This is Microsoft to our customer stating, we have done this with many, many customers. These are the things you need to expect. These are the things that you will have in play for your pilot experience. New mailbox in the cloud, connected accounts, sending mail as contoso.com to that connected account, being able to import via PST. From a collaboration scenario, being able to pilot the new tools with SkyDrive Pro and SharePoint and Lync. And then I wanted to highlight mobile. Mobile is a huge update that we've been making over just the last 6 months or so. When you think about what we've done with mobile across devices, the new Outlook Web Access that's on iOS, Office on iOS, Lync on iOS, and also on their Android counterparts, and on Windows Phone, obviously. So there is a huge amount of work that we put into the mobile piece, and that can be experienced directly in a pilot. So as soon as you start the service and have your Cloud ID, you can immediately go to any of the app stores and download these applications because they are tied to an Office 365 account. So it's a huge experience when we think about deployment. What does deployment mean when you can click an app on your iOS device or click an app on your Android device? I mean, that is Office 365 deployment. Being able to get to all your files, utilize that, and edit those files on different devices, that's a critical piece to the experience when we think about pilot. So there's a question about cutover migration before activating DirSync, and we will get to it at the very end. I'll make sure and hit that one. So from the pilot experience, I did want to talk about the identity scenario, and then we'll walk through a couple scenarios as we go through. Again, with the pilot scenario, your identity is in the cloud. You have a .onmicrosoft.com account. That is how you log in. You then use connected accounts via Outlook Web Access to be able to synchronize your inbox to your new cloud mailbox, and you can do this very quickly and easily. And we keep it very simple during that pilot phase so that you're getting the features that you need, but not having to build out a ton of infrastructure and keeping it very easy for your end users. So I'm actually going to share out my screen here and go through kind of a few of the pillars of of Office 365 with FastTrack. So what you see here is fasttrack.office.com, and this is the public-facing message of deployment from Office and from Office 365. We have worked extremely hard over the last few years to come up with a step-by-step guidance without having to give you a 110-page manual, but a step-by-step place where you can go, you can see what the experience and really the scope is for each of these pilots and deploys. And as I click in, it's very straightforward. This is open to everyone. You can start your trial and pilot directly from here, sign up for Office 365, see all of the steps that you're going to have to take as you go through these scenarios. And we have some videos to explain where we're coming from, and really it is a core difference in the voice from Microsoft when it comes to IT Pro and the steps that it takes to deploy on Office 365. All of these are immediately available for you to see exactly what kind of pieces of information we're going to need, how we want you to work through it. So from adding users to connecting your existing mail accounts, setting up your sites, preparing your pilot users. And it also comes with the deployment or with the pilot guide and with email templates to be able to send to your end users that say, hey, this is an email template. As an IT pro, you can send it straight along to your users and let them know that their pilot is starting. So when you are working through that scenario, we're giving you the tools and resources to be able to do that. Didn't see how we got here for a few people. So I'm on fasttrack.office.com. There's a pilot page, and I'm simply on the pilot page, which explains all of the steps and scenarios for the pilot. And I have my pilot guide immediately available for me. Once you're working through the pilot and going through your scenarios, we step into deploy. And again, it's a very simple scope of what is expected from a deployment phase. I'm going to talk a little bit deeper into the pilot side right now, and we're going to get to deploy in just a minute. So I'm going to go back, but I wanted to show this is all public. This is a ton of content and steps that we have gone through from an engineering side to put into a step-by-step guidance that says we know if you do these things, your success will be great through a pilot and into deployment. And we've lined those things out very quickly and easily on the website. So I'm going to go back to my presenting. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of a different experience, a little more high touch from an experience perspective. And I know the document's loading right now, so I'm going to give it a second to load up. So publicly available on fasttrack.office.com are all the steps, all the information necessary to really go through a pilot, know exactly what steps you needed to take to help get users set up with templates and everything else going on. But there's also another scenario, and that scenario is, do you have a Microsoft account manager? Do you have a partner you work with? Do you have a cloud deployment? Are you a cloud deployment partner? And if you are one of those things or are working with one of those people, and I am unable to get back to my PowerPoint. There we go. Hopefully you guys are seeing that now. There is an experience that we have built as Microsoft to help with our customers and our partners to be able to deliver pilots with a bit more hand-holding and a bit more step forward from a customer perspective. So if you have a cloud deployment partner, if you have a Microsoft account team, get in touch with them and tell them, hey, we want to start with a FastTrack pilot, because what that means when it comes through one of those entities is you actually can have your tenant provisioned by your partner, by your account team. There is extra great stuff that we put into that tenant for you to help lead you down the path of a pilot. There's so much we can do on the public website, so many steps that we can put forward, but the FastTrack experience when it's coming from a cloud deployment partner or when it's coming through your Microsoft account team is a more in-depth environment that you then can work through. So your customer, as a customer, you can have your tenant created, and then we provision content into the SharePoint site. And the content in the SharePoint site really becomes your hub of the pilot. So think of all those steps that I just went through in talking about pilot and deploy. Those steps are then provisioned into your SharePoint site. You have a welcome page, you have adoption templates, you have FastTrack Pilot plans, you have comms templates. All of these go through your from your partner or from your Microsoft account team and allow you to have a much richer experience through the pilot scenario. So instead of landing in an empty tenant that you then build from, you land in a tenant that has users that you have put in very quickly and easily. It has content to help you go through your deployment. So think about those steps that I just went through. Those are pushed into your SharePoint site as a project plan, as a list by list, step by step task items that you can import into project, you can import into Outlook, you can create as tasks that really help you go line by line through a pilot what actually you need to do, choosing scenarios, choosing different templates so that you are building through your pilot into production in a very easy and controlled way. From a content perspective, Ignite, there's a ton of great content on Ignite. There's a ton of great content on office.com. We've basically scraped a ton of that content off and put it into a single place within your own SharePoint Online tenant that allows you to get to your training labs, that allows you to get to your video learning series for administrators. Do we integrate Yammer into the pilot? It's a great question, and more info on that is on the way in subsequent talks. Right now, I don't have any kind of dates or timing for you, but it's absolutely something we're thinking about and working towards. So you have this FastTrack IT Pro experience that's helping you with administration videos, administration click-throughs, how to build new users, how to actually work through. And then there's an end user experience. Make the switch documentation, office.com videos, product videos directly from our technical product manager team that I'm on, and then site templates. And to think about how we are exploring what a pilot can be, site templates are not demo content, but they are thoughts around scenarios, HR, sales. They can add this to a production tenant. You are absolutely correct, Jeffrey. You can ask your account team, and you can add FastTrack content to an already running tenant. And so when you think about these HR, sales, marketing, finance, and I'll get into a few of these aren't demo content. What we're trying to do is build the model home, show you what it should look like, and have you walk through and then make it your own. So this is a big part of what the FastTrack experience can be when it's worked through your cloud deployment partner or our account team. And this is what the templates look like, sales and marketing. It shows you how Excel web services can be set up, Visio web services, some workflow scenarios from a legal and document set. Just trying to give you an idea of how SharePoint Online can help deliver through a pilot scenario and into production. And we wanted to highlight that you don't have to go outside your environment. This now is yours. It becomes part of your environment, and you can work with it from there. And then from an end user perspective, I mentioned at the very beginning that I work on the team that does deployment, adoption, and readiness. And all of that has to flow through, because when you're doing a pilot or Office 365 for the first time, there will be things that are new for your users. So whether it's a page like Make the Switch to Office 2013, which shows your users line by line walk through the various Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel differences, or if it's a learning task menu, just like you have from a project plan, but for end users to get educated, how do they navigate, what are some of the core scenarios, all the way down to a video learning series, and you don't have to send your users out to another site. This all is part of your SharePoint Online implementation. So I'm actually gonna share my screen again for 1 second and work through a couple of those scenarios as we go. So I wanted to be really clear. Public, fasttrack.office.com, step-by-step guidance for everybody. As we move into the more of a high-touch scenario where an account team or cloud deployment partner can deliver to you, we then come into my SharePoint Online site. And this is authenticated using my cloud ID. I'm now into my own team site that's going to help me work through my pilot. And you can see here from a messaging point of view, all of the steps, all of that kind of scope of work I talked about, it all shows here for you. And as an IT pro, you have a path. And from a pilot member, they have a path. And what we have is along the top nav is an IT pro scenario where it shows your tasks, your training labs, your video learning. Pilot members can make the switch. They can do learning activities, video learning, and then all those templates are available to you. So we've tried to put it all in one place so that you can start with your kind of FastTrack Pilot hub that helps you get through your pilot very quickly and easily. And when I look at each one of these pages, and I talked about those IT Pro tasks, these are all the steps directly from FastTrack that are validated and built by our engineering team on how our customers should move to online very quickly. And when you think about some of the deeper connection points, when you want to know more about connected accounts, you can go directly into your task about connected accounts, see exactly how you create those connected accounts, the fields you need to fill in, and then you can get right through to the next step, prepare your pilot users. And this is where, again, you have those templates available. You can send them directly from your Office 365 implementation. Test flight and pilot, what does that actually mean? So it's step-by-step walkthrough that you can complete and go through directly from your SharePoint site. The IT Pro Home shows you all of the steps necessary, and you can customize and work through those steps very quickly and easily with as much information as we can put without kind of overbearing everything on you. And then we have the pilot member site. So when you think about rolling this out to your end users, what are some of the things that our customers always ask? And it's end user documentation, quick start guides. What's going to be different for my end users? And those are all here with Make the Switch, learning activities, video learning, all of our 2013 guides that are directly positioned within the SharePoint site. And so when you think of making the switch, your end users can simply go to the courses, stay within SharePoint, within your own infrastructure, and inside that course it's Word, OneNote, Excel, and these are all training and documentation plans. How much SharePoint storage does the FastTrack content consume? Very, very little. And considering the fact that now every SkyDrive Pro 25 gig and you have a ton of storage, we position most of our content coming from Azure so that you're not having to pull it directly from within your SharePoint store. So it takes actually very little time to provision and very little of your SharePoint implementation. But that's a great question. Thank you, Daryl. So going a little bit deeper from learning activities to video learning, speaking of Azure and video learning, you're looking at a front end to about 150 videos of content, all sectioned off by what product, what you're looking for, and none of these videos get provisioned into your tenant. They actually are coming from a secure Azure site, HTTPS. But each one of them will show all the various scenarios, resending, recalling messages, all driven from Outlook. I can look at only Exchange or SharePoint and really get down to the pieces that I want to show. All of the Lync pieces are there now, and I have all of my Lync videos showing me end user capabilities for utilizing Lync. So just trying to be very quick and easy and allowing your end users to have a resource that's right at their fingertips. And the last part I wanted to talk about was the site templates. And this is always a question from our customers. And as I work with our cloud deployment partners and with our sales, I always try to say, hey, this is content that's demo content, but it's not meant to sit there and demo around. We really want our customers to think about the scenarios that we're pushing in front of them. I have Visio services in a sales pipeline, and we simply want to show you that very quickly and easily you can show deep level Visio scenarios through Visio services. On the other side, we have our Power View. So being able to open up Power View directly from the web and be able to then work through all of those Power View scenarios. And we want you to put your information here because this is your site. We don't want you to throw away these pieces, but we want you to have this information so that you can see a very clear sample piece of this is how you build Power View. This is why Excel within a browser is so powerful. I can drill and match and work through all of these scenarios very quickly, and I never left the browser. And this is available to me right during my pilot. I haven't done any infrastructure work at this point. So that is kind of the deep line pilot side of where we're driving from a FastTrack perspective. And what I'm going to do is go back to my deck. And hopefully this comes up very quickly. And I'm going to touch on the number one question. Hey, how do we get this better, deeper, extended experience? Your account teams or your cloud deployment partner. If you're a cloud deployment partner, you are eligible to get into this. So make sure you're talking to your account teams or your partners. And if you're a cloud deployment partner, fasttrack.office.com, and in the bottom right it says, hey, if you're a CDP, log in here. So we want to make it very open to our customers through our partners who have shown they're the top of the top from an Office 365 perspective, and that is where you can do it. And you can also find a cloud deployment partner at that aka.ms thing there. So we will continue on, and I did the demo. As far as what's required for all the stuff you just saw and being able to log in, really you need a network, you need network connectivity, and we have bandwidth analyzers that are available on fasttrack.com to help you work through some of that. You need POP3 or IMAP4 at the least, because that is how connected accounts work. So if you'd like to have your cloud mailbox filled with your inbox, you can do that very quickly. And then from a web client, we have we have all kinds of open web browser minimums from Chrome to Firefox to Outlook to Internet Explorer, and for Office 365 ProPlus, Windows 7. So the pilot needs very, very little. You can get started extremely quick, and it really is something that you don't have to do a ton of infrastructure for. Now, as we go on, deploy. What is the deploy experience? So after you've utilized your pilot, people are all fired up about being able to use some of these new services, the new Office, etc. It really then comes down to purchase of service, purchase of your users, moving through that cycle, and then into deployment. And from a deployment perspective, the scope of work is, again, very straightforward. Every single one of these steps is on fasttrack.office.com. They all link to the proper tools and resources that you may need to go through your deployment. And this is when we start to layer on pieces of the service and pieces of infrastructure in play. So you see there on the top, integrated identity with password from your on-premises, using directory synchronization with password sync. Integrated mail flow. So if you're coming from 2003 or 2007 or other, you have different options as far as your mail migration. If you have an investment in Exchange 2010, you're already cloud ready. I mean, you're cloud in the game. 2010, SP3, we delivered a wizard that literally click, 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 and starts with your hybrid situation. So 2010, if you're on 2010, it is a scenario in which we have built and our company has rallied around 2010 and 13 as we've moved to the cloud. So you see that there will be some other pieces of integration points that can be added easily during deploy. And then sharing and working with others, obviously, Lync, apps for Office. And then the other core piece is, during pilot, we see a lot of our customers use mobile because it's very easy. It takes no IT involvement. But what deploy offers is now the IT managed client productivity. So all of the information and steps and necessary tools to be able to deploy Office 365 ProPlus from your environment. So whether you choose to deploy all the updates that we have online, or whether you choose to pull down that click to run package and deploy it out through your own systems, totally up to you from an IT managed perspective. And then layering in some of the DLP and Exchange Online Protection scenarios so that as you're deploying, if you have some of those in place with other parties, that you're able to see how those all fit together. And so from a deploy scenario, one of the things I wanted to show was that the identity does change. Being able to synchronize your Active Directory within your on-premises AD with the cloud, and then adding password sync, which is something that we released about 6 months ago that has been a tremendous success for a lot of our customers. And I know that there has been a couple very deep dive Ignite sessions on password sync, and the content from the Ignite summits that we've been doing has a great amount of that DirSync password sync pieces. I talked about the migration options, and I wanted to show, PST migration, IMAP migration, the lowest common denominator. They will work with anything that's PST or anything that's IMAP. We then get into that staged migration phase, and so there was a question earlier about cutover, and cutover has its own steps and ways of handling FastTrack. And the way that we are building users during pilot and then moving to migration, we really don't have cutover as part of the process of FastTrack, because we see staged migration as used across the vast majority of what we're seeing from FastTrack customers, because you can start the pilot, move to deployment, and then start batch by batch, group by group with that DirSync functionality in place. How do we handle lots of people pulling the Office 365 ProPlus install? That is a great question. You pull it once, put it on your own network, and then deploy from your own network. There is the Office deployment tool and the XML config file that allows you to hold the single instance of Click to Run, and it then is deployed directly from a file share or wherever you want to put it. So there you go. Daryl already answered that. It's a great answer. Thank you for the community-driven answer there. So yeah, you do not have to have users pull it down from the cloud. You can control the build number. You can control where it is, how it lands, all through the Office deployment tool. So coming down to deployment offer, I can't talk about deployment without talking about the deployment offer. From a customer perspective, if you have purchased or are going to purchase Office 365, please look into the deployment offer. It is directly scoped to our Step 2 deployment and allows you to use a cloud deployment partner or Microsoft services, depending on your engagement model, to be able to have money towards deployment. And when you think of those steps that I went through on 2 slides ago of what is happening during deploy, really this is an offer to all customers that fit within the SKU model. So you can go to the offer page, no matter how you're purchasing, and know if you are a charity and getting charity pricing or nonprofit free that we announced a couple weeks ago, this is not for you, so my apologies. But any E or G SKUs, and you'll see all of the details on the offer page. This is deployment dollars that go directly to a cloud deployment partner for them to deliver Step 2 engagements, for them to deliver those deployments to you. So I know this is Ignite and technical, but I needed to talk about that because we have really lined out the scope of work that needs to happen for us to get our customers on board through Step 2 deploy engagement, and now we have wrapped funding around that. So what have we done from an engineering perspective and from a Step 2 side? And we have built and invested in adoption enhancements. And I've mentioned this one already 20 times, but Windows Azure Directory Sync, it's an alternative to federated authentication. There is a tremendous amount of benefits when it comes to not having to build the infrastructure for ADFS on your premises, not having to have 5 or 6 servers and then load balance them across different data centers so that you don't have to have that infrastructure. So obviously there's always a give and take from a business solution, but going through deployment and starting with the password sync, and then really digging down into does this work for our organization is what we have seen over the past 6 months, a huge amount of growth from a password sync perspective. And everyone asks, is it secure? Absolutely. We never access any kind of plain text password. This is built into the DirSync appliance that simply runs. It's a checkbox implementation, literally. There are no extra steps than that. And it's a hash of a hash. So we are not passing any kind of passwords. We're only passing the hash and then hashing that within our Windows Azure Active Directory. The next thing I want to talk about was IdFix DirSync error remediation tool. One of the things we found as we were really pushing through these FastTrack methodology pieces within the last year or so is that our customers, for whatever reason, might have some Active Directory issues. Maybe it's old stuff, maybe it's misproperly, maybe it's the cloud is a little too stringent. But what we found is that AD remediation was taking a considerable amount of time when you think about the all-up process. And so we delivered on IdFix. And this is an engineering delivery. It's available on TechNet directly through those fast-track steps. And you simply walk through the scenario of, hey, I tried to sync, or I'm wanting to sync. This is bad news. It will fail. My AD is not clean enough to go to the cloud. It says that, and then what happens is you put AD-Sync in the mix, or you put IdFix in the mix. IdFix simply runs. It's a very simple tool. It will show you all of the pieces that need to be changed. It will make those changes. Think of it as like the fix it button. You say fix it, it fixes it, and your AD is now remediated for the cloud. You can always have a backup of those fix it in case something changed that you didn't want it to change, and you can implement that backup right back into your Active Directory. So IdFix is a tool that has been very handy for our implementations and has cut down the AD work considerably. There's also scoping options, and again, this isn't going to be something that everyone needs to do, but we allow DirSync to then scope your Active Directory for users moving to the cloud. Maybe it's by OU, maybe it's domain-based, or a user attribute. Put in the user attribute is cloud and have it scoped down to them. What that means is that when you do a DirSync, it will only DirSync those scoped users. And you can do a business unit, you can do a group of people who you're moving at once if it's necessary for you. And again, we don't see this in all scenarios, but we see this in specific scenarios and built it into our product to help you scope that filtering. Things to note, those people will have less of a GAL than the people on-prem, so they will only be able to communicate with each other through the GAL. So there are a few things to really think about, and this is all through fasttrack.office.com, directly links you to these scoping options. And I mentioned it before with 2010 SP3, the Exchange on-premises can deploy Exchange Hybrid in Step 2. So we talk a lot about enhanced Step 3 hybrid scenarios. If you are on current Exchange 2010 SP3, you're able to do that quickly and easily during Step 2, which will obviously give you some of those benefits like free busy across the chasm of cloud and on-premises. It'll give you a lot of those scenarios from a hybrid. Instead of migration, it is an MRS, a mailbox replication service move, which basically, from an end user perspective, means that they will not notice their mailbox is being moved. Until it's finally complete and done, they may, and we don't even see this in all occasions anymore, they may, as an end user, get a, hey, your administrator made a change, restart Outlook. Is SP3 required on all Exchange 2010 on-prem servers? That's a great question, and I believe the answer is it has to be on all of the CAS roles, not on every single on-prem server, like mailbox server doesn't have to be, but I believe it has to be across all CAS roles. I will follow up, Jeff Winslow, and answer that, because I will have to get an exact answer, because I know there was a lot of discussion with that internally. So there you go. Someone else already answered it. And I think I was almost perfectly correct. So there we go. See, this is an awesome community. I don't have to answer all the questions myself. Thank you so much, guys. So what is required, and this is going to kind of round out our discussion today, going through step one. We went deep on the pilot and what's possible from there. Step two, I know this is kind of a little more high level than maybe you wanted on the depth side. The next session next week, we will go deep into deploy and deep into enhance. But what's required is you have to have a directory sync server to do deployment. If you don't, you can still move forward but we expect that most of our customers have Active Directory. If you don't have Active Directory, there are many options to get those users to the cloud. But in the vast amount of our cases, we see directory servers, so directory sync then becomes that requirement, and it then becomes the identity scenario. You need obviously network access, bandwidth availability. When you think about deployments and you're moving mail, we do want to think about what is it that our customers need to do during those migrations to have their bandwidth ready and up and being able to move those mailboxes. Because once you're moving your organization, it becomes a physics issue of pure mail across the line. Access to maintain DNS entries. So this is where your shared namespace comes into play. If you have a whole other team that handles DNS, you need to be involved with that other team so that the DNS changes can be made. Required for setup and migration, Exchange 2010, best case scenario. 2007, 2003, absolutely there. You have to have Outlook Anywhere Access enabled to do stage migration. Or you can do PST, and we have the PST capture tool, which allows you to capture PSTs and push them up to those users. And then from the client, we already kind of went through this, but it's minimum browser and Windows 7 to run the client. So I hope this was helpful and it gave you a deeper vision of what FastTrack is and what it encompasses and how we are trying to pull together the best of our steps really from the world of so much content floating around everywhere. Is this article right? Is that article right? Is this the one I go? Is this the guide I use? FastTrack.office.com is the source of truth when it comes to moving through quickly and easily through these scenarios and line by line working through it. So I really appreciate everyone on the call. I'm going to stop here and I guess give you a verbal call to action. If you're a cloud deployment partner, hopefully you're utilizing the FastTrack portal and helping your customer with these pilot engagements. If you're a customer, please talk to your Microsoft account team, talk to your cloud deployment partner. Let us help with that first experience. We put a ton of time and effort into the content and the scenarios, and we really are trying to enable our customers to have a great experience right up front. And again, publicly, all of this information is available on fasttrack.office.com. Trying our best to disclose and be open with these are the steps, this is what you got to do. This is really our stance from Microsoft to you of how we expect you to go through the deployment. So we will be back next week, and it will get much deeper around what does it look like when you do stage migrations? What does it look like when directory sync is moving through? We'll do some demos and show you what that actually happens when you do a batch. We have some great videos to go through too. And we'll talk a little bit about the enhanced side. So really appreciate the time. I'm going to stay on for another 6 minutes, and if there's any questions, go for it. So thank you so much, all.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Great session. So now's the time, to insert those questions in the chat window. And like Jeff said, you could find our next session at this link, and you can download the calendar invite. I'm just going to ask a couple survey questions in the background. But yeah, we'll stay on for another 5-6 minutes. Thanks again for joining. And if you had a question that wasn't answered, feel free to paste that back into the window if we didn't get to your question. Okay, so here's a question from Tom. Okay, so Jeff, are you able to see these questions right here?
Yep, I'm hitting some of them right now, typing.
Oh, okay, great.
Oh, I was just typing out. Jeffrey would like to know more about how to handle compatibility issues with older versions of Office. We have we have a thing called telemetry, and it is a feature now that you can actually look back at other older versions of Office. And I know there is Ignite content on the site specifically about Office deployment, which goes deep into telemetry. So I was just going to go on the Ignite site, search for telemetry, and see what we have on that. But I know that I've delivered the session. Yeah, there you go. And from a telemetry perspective, you'll be able to look at older versions, what is failing, not only what is failing, but what might be working, but very slowly. There's an entire session based on that. So that is a great question, and for Office deployment, that's critical. There you go. Thank you, Josh. Ben, I'm seeing some of your comments on upgrading an XP and difficulties, we have a bunch of programs, and I can't tell where you live or where you are in the world, but there is Get to Modern, and there are a ton of programs that we are pushing out that are specifically around the XP and Office end dates. So if you look for a few things all over the gradually, it's a slow slog. So I know US has Get to Modern and some very specific programs that if you have any questions, please let us know. And Josh put up how you can directly PM him anytime. But I would love to hear if you're having some issues or don't know of the programs, because there is a significant investment from, especially in the US, to help our customers get from XP. So check it out. Let us know if you have any questions, and I'll get you in touch with the right people. All right, all. Thank you so much. Have a good morning, afternoon, night, wherever you are. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jeff. And we'll see everyone next week, same time, same place. Thanks, everyone.